All right, good morning. Uh, and welcome. Thanks for being here. Thanks for getting up and joining in on a cold, snowy morning. Um, as I guess the mornings should be this time of year. Major snow, that's the name of the seasonal node that we're in. So we're on track. All right. So let's begin. We can tuck our thumbs into our fingers, let our hands rest on our thighs. If you'd like to close your eyes, you can. We'll just take a couple moments to arrive here together. And we do that by bringing our awareness to the three treasures: the body and the alignment of the body, the breath and the movement of the breath, the mind and the focus of the mind. So let's begin with the body and the alignment of the body, and just tuning into that, tuning into what you feel, and maybe exploring the sensations that you feel, exploring the sensations of your alignment, seeing if you can find a place that feels stable and also relaxed. You can tune into the sits bones that you're sitting on, and just like we do when we're standing and we notice our feet, you can notice your sits bones, and is the weight more in one sits bone than the other? Are you sitting a little forward on your sits bones or a little back? Just noticing what's there, noticing what you notice. And as you settle into your body and noticing your weight, your substance, you can then expand your awareness to include your breath and the movement of your breath into and through your body. You might notice how your breath introduces different directions of movement. Like if the weight of the body feels heavy and it's moving down, with the breath, you might be able to find some lift, some width, some expansion within the body. And just exploring those different directions of movement that are introduced by the breath that help to balance the directions of the weight of the body. And you might find that there's a direction that you could use more of. Like maybe you do need more downward movement, or maybe upward movement, or expansive movement out to the sides or to the front or to the back. Just allowing your awareness to track those directions and notice how those directions feel in your body. Like, do some feel good? Do some feel less good? Find out what you like, or what your body, what your system responds to, and how it responds. And just allowing the awareness of the body and the awareness of the breath to be the focus of the mind. And as you're ready, you can bring your hands together and we'll rub our palms together, generating some heat in our palms, preparing for the self-massage. This time of year is a really good time to practice the self-massage on a regular basis, helping to calm the nervous system, helping to boost the immune system, helping to support the circulation of blood and lymph. And when you're ready, we can take a nice deep breath in together. And exhale, shake it out. And again, rubbing the palms together. And you can feel free to massage one hand with the other as you rub them together. If you have some joints in your hands that need some extra attention, maybe they're feeling the effects of the cold, then give them some extra attention. Consciousness is related to the fire element, which is warm, nourishing, moving. And then another nice deep breath in. Shake it out. Relax. And then breathe deeply. Breathing into every cell of the body. And then let's take our hands and we can massage our faces. Up and out. And I say up and out because that's how I do it, because that's what feels best to me, but you are welcome to go up and down or out and in. Feel free to try different ways of doing this. Finding a way that feels good, that feels meaningful. And when you're ready, nice deep breath in. Take it out. And rub your palms together. That was nice. I kind of got into that face rub there. All right. And then we can take our fingertips and rub them over our scalps, and you can go front to back, you can go back and forth, you can scrub your head. Again, just do different things. Find what feels good. When you find something that feels good, do more of that. And what feels good over time may change. And that is okay, that is allowed. That is really the point of Qigong, to get to know ourselves, to feel what works, to notice that what works is not just one thing, and sometimes that thing is one thing one time and something else at another time. Lots of acupoints on the scalp. Very good for the sensory orifices, for opening up the eyes and the ears and the nose. Very good for the brain. And as you're ready, you can slide your hands down the back of your neck and then around the base of your neck, and a nice big breath in. Shake it out. Rub your palms together and breathe with your whole body. Really just paying attention to the breath and the movement of the breath, all the way in, all the way out, all the way through. And then we can take our palms and cup them over our eyes, gentle pressure to the eye sockets. Your eyelids can be opened or closed. Just tuning in here, noticing what it feels like on the inside of your eye sockets. Noticing if the muscles that move your eyes are holding some tension that you otherwise wouldn't notice, but that's why we're taking the time to tune in now. Our eyes do quite a lot. So giving them some time to rest, to be felt, to be acknowledged. And again, when you're ready, deep breath in, shake it out. Rubbing the palms together and breathing. Now we can activate the acupoint in Tong, in between the eyebrows, taking the base of the left hand, pressing in between the eyebrows gently, and then slowly just drawing your hand across the forehead and off to one side, and then we'll do that again with the right side. Just taking your time, finding a way of doing this that feels good, that feels nourishing and calming, connecting to this acupoint that relates to the heart, that relates to our quality of consciousness, that relates to the pineal gland, the anatomical third eye. And again, just taking the time to tune in and feel yourself. Feel what you feel like. And whenever you finish your next pass with whichever hand, you can take a deep breath in, shake it out, rubbing the palms together, breathing, noticing your alignment and your breath and your mind. And then we can take the edge of our thumbs to the edge of our nose and massage up and down. Breathing through your nose. And you can hang out down low by the edge of your nostrils. You can hang out up high, the inner corners of your eye sockets. You can go in between both spaces. Opening up your sinuses, your frontal and your maxillary sinuses, opening up the acupoints, bright eyes, and welcome fragrance. And then a deep breath in and out. Rubbing the palms together and breathing. And again, take the time to breathe on purpose, fully and deeply and completely. And we can take the tips of our thumbs on either side of our mouth, one hand below, one hand above, and massage back and forth, stimulating the lips and the gums, generating some saliva. If you'd like, you could swish that saliva around in your mouth. You can swallow that saliva down. Nourish your stomach yin. And a deep breath in and out. Rubbing the palms together, breathing. Now let's take our palms and make forward circles over our ears. And when you're ready, a deep breath in and out. Rubbing the palms together. Notice the sensation of your palms. Are they getting warmer? Are they getting colder? Do they feel a little puffy or chalky? Just notice what you feel and what you feel like. And then let's do a self-shoulder massage, beginning with our left arm. We'll swing it up to the right shoulder, let it fall away, and then alternating side to side, letting gravity do most of the work. And use just as much force as feels good. If you land on your shoulder and it's like, ow, you don't have to land like that. It doesn't have to hurt. Ideally, it doesn't hurt. Ideally, it feels good. And if it doesn't feel good, you are free to explore different ways of doing this so that you can find a way that does feel good. And then when it feels good, do that and see what happens. And then you can apply that to everything else you do in your life. Moving at your own pace. Yeah. Cold can definitely cause us to tighten our shoulders. One more on each side. And a nice breath in and out. Rubbing the palms together and breathing. And now let's open our chests so we can take our right fingers into a little beak, find the bottom of your left collarbone and slide out into the hollow space directly under the collarbone. When you're there, drop down just about an inch or so. You'll roll over a little muscle into another little hollow space, and if you press on it, it might feel a little tender. And then left fingertips to the bottom of the rib cage. Just follow the bottom of your rib cage, not too far down, but about to the edge of your abdominal wall or your abdominal muscles, and you'll feel another little divot at the bottom of the ribs, kind of half on the ribs, half in the muscle or the belly. And then we can tap these two spots. And feel free to make small circles as you're tapping, just feeling what you feel. And it may happen that you might find a spot in each of these places that feels distinct, so you can hang out on that spot. If you don't find that spot, just keep making small circles and feel what you feel, and tap and breathe. Maybe noticing the space in between these 2 points, which is really like your whole rib cage, where your breath moves and where your heart beats. You've got the diaphragm in this area and the solar plexus and a whole lot of vasculature, a bunch of nerve plexuses, a lot of lymphatic tissue. There's a whole lot going on in this area, physically, energetically, emotionally. And so we're just facilitating connection, awareness, movement in this area of our body. This is the area where when we're not feeling well physically or mentally, emotionally, we tend to shut down, we tend to guard it. And so we're opening it up, allowing things to move through, allowing a deep breath to come in and out. Noticing what's here. And when you're ready, you can massage both of these points, continue to feel and breathe. And then we can change sides. So the left fingertips is under the right collarbone and a little bit down, and right fingertips at the bottom of the left rib cage, following it down into the hollow space. And again, we tap. The lower hand on this side is closer to the spleen. When we did it on the other side, it was closer to the liver, big organs that are repositories of a lot of blood and lymph. And they can get full, sometimes even congested. And so we're helping them to circulate, to flow. The upper hand is at the top of the lungs. And a lot of times we don't always breathe all the way to the tip tops of the lungs. And it has been shown that when we don't breathe all the way up into the tops of the lungs, the top of our lungs actually flop over like puppy ears. And so we want to bring breath and chi and life all the way up to the top of the lungs. Breathing with our whole lung, getting that oxygen, that blood and that lymph pumping and flowing and circulating, getting what we need where it needs to go, getting what we don't need where it needs to go, which is out. Even what we do need, it comes in and it goes out. Then you can massage and feel, continue to breathe. And when you're ready, let's take a nice deep breath in. Maybe an audible exhale. Let's do another. Big breath in and out. And then rub the palms together. Notice your alignment. Breathe into the shape of your body. Let that be the focus of your mind. And then let's bring our hands onto the lower ribs, and we can massage our lower ribs, and then the hands can start to move into the abdomen, massaging our belly and our internal organs. Maybe one hand comes over the chest and the other hand is over the belly, and then those hands can change positions. Maybe both hands start to come together and move in a big circle over the abdomen, maybe going one direction and then going back in the other direction, just to see which direction feels good. As you're making these big circles, maybe you start to make small circles within the big circle. And just take your time as you move around the abdomen and feel what you feel. Are there any areas that feel a little tender, that feel a little tight, that feel a little something that you can just bring more awareness to, more intention to, bringing a stronger, clearer field into your field to help organize your field. And when you're ready, your hands can move around your waist to your lower back and the area of your kidneys and your lumbar spine, and the bottom of the ribs and the top of the hips and the sacrum and the SI joint. And when you're ready, you can draw your hands out, shake them out. And then take a nice deep breath in and out. And then let's massage our arms. So you can tap the fingertips, run up the outside and down the inside of the arms, going with the flow. And you can go fast, you can go slow, you can use heavy pressure, you can use very light pressure. You can do a little bit of all of it. And then let's go up one more time and then down, tap the fingertips, change sides, tapping the fingertips, up the outside, down the inside. Remember to breathe and relax. You can be easy with this. And then up one more time and down. Deep breath in. Shake it out. Rub the palms together. And then you can bring your feet out in front of you. And you can use your hands to massage the bottom of your feet with your thumbs, and maybe in between the long bones on the top of your feet with your fingers. If you're sitting in a chair, and it's difficult to reach your feet, you can always massage your knees and your knee joints. And I like to pinch and massage the edge of my foot that's facing up towards me. Inevitably, there's a couple spots along this edge that feel particularly tender. And so I give them some extra attention. Holy geez, that's a tender spot. Whew. Yeah. And then, if you'd like, you can go back to the bottom of your foot with your thumbs and follow the funnel down to the deepest hollow. And you can apply some gentle pressure to that spot. If you're massaging your knee joints, you can massage the backside of your knee, maybe finding the deepest hollow on the backside of the knee. And then when you're ready, you can draw your hands up the inside of the legs and around the hips and down the outside, going with the flow of the meridians. And again, fast or slow, hard or soft, finding what feels good, finding what works for you in this moment. And we can come up one more time and then around and down and out the feet. Big breath in. Shake it out. Rubbing the palms together one more time for now. And then you can return to a comfortable seat. You can tuck your thumbs back into your fingers, let your hands rest back on your thighs, and just notice your body and the sensations of your alignment. Notice the breath and the movement of the breath into and through your body, not just in and out of your lungs, but in and out of your whole body. And let that awareness of the body and the breath be the focus of the mind for just a few moments. We're coming up to the deepest, darkest part of winter. We're really there already. And the nature of winter is cold. Cold tends to cause things to constrict, contract, congeal. Our blood circulates from the deepest parts of our body out into the extremities. The blood carries qi, which helps to nourish all of our tissues, all of our cells, so that they can be alive. Using the breath is a way of helping to warm the blood. The breath is qi. Qi is yang. Qi is warm. So in these times of winter that are darker and colder, we can go inwards, deep inside. And as we move deep into the darkness, we do find light. We find little embers of light. And just like when you gently blow on an ember, you can help it turn into a flame. You can do that with your breath, breathing deeply into your body. stoking the embers inside of you so that they can warm the blood, that the blood can then circulate and nourish all the way out to the tips of your toes and your fingers. We can get in touch with how much strength, how much potential exists within us. Even without all of the external inputs of sunlight or fresh fruit and vegetables, all of that exists within us as well. And becoming skillful at cultivating that as much as we are skillful in cultivating the external inputs helps us to maintain balance. And whenever you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes. All right. Feeling warmer? Okay. Any questions? All right. So I have some things on the board. We can talk about them. So just some things to go along with the season. We're in winter that we mentioned. So third phase of winter, major snow. The next phase starts next week, which is the winter solstice. So major astrological event, the longest night, the shortest day, yin is at its peak. And then the yang starts to return right after that. The days will start getting a little bit longer. The nights will start getting a little bit shorter. So we've made it. So just some things about the winter, right? So that's the season is winter. The quality of winter is cold that we've talked about. You know, cold tends to be congealing, tends to be contracting. And then the spirit of the winter is the zhi, which translates as the will. And the Chinese character for zhi is this bottom character for the heart and the mind, consciousness, and it's underneath a sprout, a tree that's sprouting and growing. So that's what the will is, you know, like what our consciousness is directed to. What are we growing? What are we nourishing? The sound of the winter is groaning. And, you know, groaning, when we think about the sound, it's the monotony of the sound. So there's not a lot of like up and down in someone's voice. It's just like, it's not necessarily like, although it can be, that's kind of a groan. But it's also just, you know, I'm talking very monotone and there's not a lot of variation in how I am talking. Like that's kind of the groan. And that mirrors what's going on outside. All of the energy is underground, right? And so when we look out, it's like, it's pretty much the same. Like maybe things are blanketed in snow and all of the trees, because they don't have any leaves, they all kind of look similar. So that's the groaning sound. I think it's also interesting when we think about related to the will, you know, and we don't want to do something. And it's like, you know, hey, go out and shovel the driveway. And it's like, I don't want to do that. I'm cold, I'm contracting in. And so we can notice these tendencies within ourselves, and they might show up a little bit more obviously during this time of year, but we can get to know them, and then we can find them anywhere. We can recognize them in ourselves. Like if we're groaning over something, that's a nice time to then reflect and like, what am I doing? Why am I doing that? Do I want to be doing that? Is my will there? Is it for like a good reason that I don't want to do it? Or is it maybe something I need to face and strengthen my will? These are things to be aware of. The emotion associated with the winter is fear, which can also show up as no fear. And then the balance of that is wisdom, right? And so there are people who are too afraid to do anything, and you're just like, come on, like take a chance. And there are some people who are not afraid of doing anything, you know, they're like, yeah, I'll jump off that mountain, no problem. And it's like, maybe you should slow down a little bit and not be so reckless. And that's the wisdom. That's the ability to kind of look at things and consider and be wise. And then the organs associated with this in our body are our kidneys. And when we think about the kidneys, we also think about the adrenals and the adrenal glands, which kind of, have that adrenal surge of fight or flight energy. And that fight or flight energy is really driven by the will to survive, right? It's like there's something in us that wants to keep going. And so when we're confronted with something that is scary, we might say, yeah, I'm going to run away from that, or I'm going to battle it because I want to keep going. I want to keep living. I have the will to do that. And sometimes we push ourselves beyond our capacity. We do things that we don't want to do, and then we tend to exhaust our adrenals. And sometimes when we need to call upon those reserves, they're not there. Or maybe they're always there when they're not necessary. And so, again, things to notice, things to be aware of. The tissue related to the winter, related to the kidneys in our body, are the bones and our marrow. And so, we can feel the cold in our bones, or we feel it in our bones to be like right, or something that we want to do. It's something that we have to do. We also can think about the bones as the deepest parts of ourselves. They're like the most internal. And this winter, it's like the deepest, darkest time of the year in our body. The deepest, darkest places are our bones. And that's where our marrow lives. And what's interesting is that the marrow is what gives rise to red and white blood cells, which are really like the yang of the body, right? That's our capacity to breathe air and to rebuild ourselves and to recreate and keep going. And so we have this idea of this winter, everything is going in and deep and down, and it's like the seeds underground just kind of waiting there, being nourished. We can go inwards and deep and inside and nourish and restore ourselves. And our bone marrow has all of these stem cells that then become whatever it is that we need, or they become the red blood cells or the white blood cells, which are our immune systems. And so thinking about that balance of being able to not overextend our will or our capacity to do things so that we don't exhaust our kidneys and our adrenals, giving ourselves the time to rest and restore and reflect, so that as we go in deep into the dark, we actually find the source of yang in the marrow, and just like when we're sitting in stillness and going deep and just dropping away and getting less and less attached or concerned or involved with whatever it is that's going on. And what do we find when we go deep into nothingness? We find light, that empty space that is actually very full of radiance and luminescence. So this is the time of year to really tune into that, right? And it's like we think about our holidays and our celebrations. It's like we have Hanukkah and the Festival of Lights, and we have Christmas lights, and we're, lighting candles and burning fires and getting together with loved ones to feel that warmth and that connection and that yang energy, and finding it inside of ourselves when it's not so abundant outside of ourselves, remembering that it's there and continually connecting with it and being in touch with it, so that that's what keeps us going, so that when it is dark and cold and difficult, we can find the will to keep going. So that's a little bit about winter and the themes associated with winter. Yeah.
How do you think of the function of the kidneys?
How do I think of the function of the kidneys? In what regards?
What they do functionally.
Yeah, well, so from a Western perspective, a big part of what the kidneys do is they are filters, and they're filtering the water in the body, really. So they're associated with the water element, which is associated with winter and with cold. And so everything is really kind of, sinking down in our bodies. It works our way through the kidneys. The kidneys are then basically filtering out and sending messages back up to the brain. As they're filtering through the water, they're taking stock of, what do we have? What's most essential? And that is essence, that's what we call in Chinese physiology, that's the metal. Metal becomes water. And so water is distilling those essential necessities of life out of the water so that we can retain them. and then it's letting go of what's not needed. But also a big part of the kidneys is not only filtering and draining out, but this yang aspect of the kidneys literally steams those fluids. It's like the source of our metabolic energy, steaming those fluids back up through the body so that then they go back up into the brain and the hypothalamus and the pineal gland and the pituitary gland, so that then they can sense, like, well, what do the kidneys have too much of? What do they have not enough of? Well, let's then send those messages back. So there's this nice kind of draining down of the yin in the body, and the kidneys provide that yang energy that then steams it back up. So then we have this continual feedback loop that's going on, and that's basically our endocrine system. And I think it's very interesting when we talk about that character for Qi, which is a picture of steam. That's really what's happening in our body. If we don't have steam in our body, our metabolic function typically gets very thrown off, and so that's why we want to have strong kidneys and strong adrenal glands, so that that yang energy isn't so dampened that those messages can't circulate, can't move. And so that's where it is important to move and to get things circulating and to conserve our energies and not overextend ourselves. So, so that's one way that I think of kidney function. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it important this time of year to support the kidney through whatever, like acupuncture or some kind of?
Yeah, so supporting the kidneys during the winter is useful because, again, this is one of the more challenging times of the year. And when we say kidneys, like we're speaking of the organs themselves, but we're also speaking of like all of this as well. So there's like an energy to it. And that's where, if we can take the unnecessary demands off of our plate, that's really what we want to do this time of year. And so, yeah, receiving treatments can be beneficial, but also the choices that we're making can also be more important, and so, like, traditionally the foods that are eaten this time of year are typically warm and wet, lots of soups, lots of stews, because those are much easier to digest. If we're taking in cold foods like ice water or ice cream or things like that, it requires more of our metabolic energy to break that down, because we're also trying to keep our bodies warm. And so if we're taking in warm and wet foods, that's just one less thing that the body has to do. So then that energy can be retained for that steaming quality, and so dressing warmly is also a good idea. It's like here in Durango, I see people all the time with like a big puffy jacket on and flip-flops. And it's just like, what's going on there? So like covering the feet, covering the back of the neck with a scarf around our neck. That's where we have our 10 cranial nerves. And the vagus nerve is one of those nerves. And if we're really cold in the back of the neck and we're contracted and we're affecting the vagus nerve, stimulating the sympathetic nervous system, going into fight or flight, shutting down digestive processes, causing irregular heartbeats, making it difficult to breathe easy, like that's hard on the body. And it's already hard to make it through winter. So how can we make it easier? So yeah, cover the back of the neck, cover your feet, stay warm, eat warm, nourishing foods. Don't do too much. Don't be outside pouring a bunch of sweat because you're overexerting. And then once you stop what you're doing, then you freeze to death because you have all this sweat on your skin. It's like, again, there's wisdom in all of these things, because it's like they're self-evident, when we think about them. It's almost like we want to implement and normalize and popularize grandmother's wisdom because, there's a lot of wisdom in that. Yeah. All right. Anything else? Okay. Great. Well then, let's do some practice. All right. Hey. Good. So, yeah, and so going along with this theme of winter, we're going to do a practice, not totally unlike what we did last week, but with a nice kind of balance between movement and stillness, and also when we think about like the tissue of the kidneys relating to the bones. And so we also want to be able to kind of settle into our bones and allow our awareness to get to that level of sensation in our bodies so that then we can come back out from there. We want to go deep and then fill up. So, all right, my feet are a little asleep from sitting. Maybe let's just bounce a little bit if you'd like. It doesn't have to be too much. And I like to just come off of my heels just a little bit and then drop back down onto the bones of my heels. And as I do that, feeling the big bones of my heels landing on the ground, I can feel a nice kind of reverberation up the backside of my body. I feel it a lot in my sacrum area and the backside of my hips. And then as you're bouncing, you might also tune into your shoulder blades and just notice those big shoulder blade bones kind of bouncing up and down on the back of your rib cage. And just breathing. And this doesn't have to be too big. It can be very subtle. You know, you can make it like a very high frequency, low impact kind of shake. You can make it a big bounce. And then you can just settle in. That made me sneeze. Thank you. Yeah. Wei Qi, the defensive Qi, comes from the kidneys. So there we go. All right. So now just find a comfortable stance. Your feet can be however wide or narrow you'd like them to be, and you can always adjust as we move along. And let's lift our toes off the ground and unlock the knees so that you can really settle in to the bones of your feet, the hard parts of your feet, the heels, the outside edge of the feet, and the big toe mound. And like if I was doing this with my hands for those on camera, it's like really on the outside edges of the foot. This is the outside edge of the foot, the pinky edge. That's almost like rolling out onto the ground. And with the knees bent, the weight is shifted slightly back onto the heels. And then it's like reaching through the big toe mound to find the ground. And so the big toe, it's not like you're bearing a lot of weight on the big toe mound. It's almost like you're reaching for the ground with the big toe mound. But really where the weight is really carried is on the outside edge of the feet and the heel. And this is a very active position for the feet, the ankles, the knees, the legs. We want the knees to be unlocked. And, you know, the bend or the rotation or anything, it's not coming from the knee joint itself. That's just bending. We're more accessing the rotation through the ankles and the hips. So soft knees, toes lifted, 3 hard parts of the foot making contact with the ground. And see if you can find that balance between effort and strength and ease and relaxation. And then traveling up the legs into the hips, and with the knees slightly bent, what I would invite you to do is just, you know, as if you're reaching back through your sacrum, like you're trying to push something with the back side of your body, just reaching through your hips very slightly so that the hips come back, but the spine stays nice and tall. So we're not rounding through the spine. The spine is nice and straight, and it's the hips that are just gently shifting back so that the weight really drops down into your heels now. So you're really heel focused with your weight, and then you can roll out onto that outside edge of your foot. So it's almost like you're trying to spread your feet wide, but they're not moving. And then you can reach through your big toe mound to find the ground. Very active in the legs, turning things on. We've got really big muscles in our legs that tend to get weak as we get older. So we want to wake them up. We want to engage them, turn them on. And again, as they're turned on, and if you're really efforting, see if then you can kind of back off of that effort just a little bit, but maintain the integrity of the structure. And then rising up from the hips into the rib cage, and see if you can breathe, not so much in the front of your rib cage, you're not breathing forward. See if you can breathe wide to the sides of the rib cage, like in between your hips and your armpits. Can you breathe into that area? And if you can breathe into the sides and breathe wide in your rib cage, you might become a little more aware of the back side of your rib cage. So really focusing on those areas, the sides and the back of the rib cage. Especially those bottom ribs, like take a breath with the back lower rib cage and you can almost feel them kind of inflate from the bottom. And it might even pull you back a little bit more onto your heels, which is fine. And if you feel like your breath is pulling you backwards and you're a little unstable, what you do is from your hips, just reaching back a little bit. Just let the hips unlock. And then you have a lot of room to breathe and fill on the back side of the rib cage and maintain your balance. Getting wide, getting lifted, getting full. And then to facilitate that breath, we can find our occipital protuberance on the back side of the head, right in the center of the head, a little notch on the back of the skull. Just very gently reach into your finger with that spot of your head. You know you'll be doing it right if your chin tucks slightly. If your chin comes up, you want to come back to normal and then reach again. See if you can reach through the back of your head. The chin tucks slightly, the back of the neck gets longer, which might again also bring you a little bit more into your heels, bring more awareness into the back side of the rib cage, which you can then fill with breath. Let your knees be unlocked, lift your toes off the ground, find the hard parts of your feet making contact with the ground. And again, this is a very active posture, even though we're just standing and breathing. When you're breathing into the sides of the rib cage and the back of the rib cage, it's an active breath. You really have to work on it. And you might feel it engage some of the muscles in your lower back, maybe even all the way around. The whole lower dantian gets a little more activated when you breathe this way, when you stand in this way. And then again, like we did with our legs, if you're really efforting in this posture, see if you can kind of dial back the effort just a little bit, but still maintaining an awareness of all of these points. An awareness of the feet, unlocked knees, awareness of a wide breath into the sides and the back of the rib cage, awareness of gentle reaching through the back of the head so the neck is nice and long. And it's like the whole body becomes a bellows with the breath. You're breathing in and you're getting full, and you're exhaling and the breath is just getting flushed through the whole body. Every cell is breathing, is respirating, is metabolizing life. Just take one breath here together, inhaling. And then exhale, let your palms come back to back. Inhale the hands up. And exhale out and around. Let's breathe like this for a little while. Inhale up. Exhaling out. Knees can bend as the hands come down. Rolling up. And we're not really rounding the spine too much. It might happen a little bit as the hands come down. The chin can come closer to the chest, but it's more of a knee bend, a strong back press through your feet to come up. And then exhale. In. And out. Again, the hips can shift back slightly so the knees can bend. Pressing through the feet, inhale up. Exhaling, and again, the hips shift back, knees can bend, the spine is nice and tall. Strong feet and legs, inhale up. Exhale. hips, weight in the heels, then the knees can bend. Moving like this. And there's this idea of clearing things out. We're drawing everything up and letting it go. Just flushing out the whole system. Use your breath. Harmonize the movement with the breath. One more time. Exhaling. As you inhale, let your hands float up to about the level of the belly, and then the hands can face the belly, whether it's the belly button, the solar plexus, the heart center. Just find what feels good to you. And again, like what we just did, but we're in a slightly different shape. So lift your toes off the ground. Find the 3 points of contact, your heels and the outside edge of the foot. The knees are unlocked. Maybe shifting the hips back ever so slightly so that the weight really pours down through your heels. And then breathe into the sides and the back of your rib cage. So you're really like breathing this big 360-degree circle that your arms are holding. So it's from the back side of the ribs, out the outside of the arms, to the outside of the hands. Filling that whole space with breath, reaching through the back of the head. Getting long through the back of the neck. Challenging our will to keep going here. Take another big breath in. Exhale, turn the palms out. Inhale, open the arms wide. Exhale, send your hips back. Spine is nice and long, and then the knees can bend as the hands sweep down. Shift your hips back, weight in the heels, press through your heels to inhale up. And then exhale. Inhale the hands up. Exhale, palms forward. Inhale, arms out to the side. Exhale, hips back. Knees bend, spine is straight as the arms come down, then hips back, press through your heels as you inhale up. And exhale down. Inhale, hands up. Exhale, palms out. Inhale, out. Exhale, hips back, arms down. Arms float out, reach your hips back, press through your heels as you inhale up. And exhale. 2 more like that. In, out, in, and out. Hips back, then the knees. The arms float out, hips reach back, press through your heels to inhale up. 1 more, exhaling. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Knees can bend. Hips back, press through the heels as you inhale. And then exhale. This time, hands face towards the ground. You can inhale, pressing through the outside edges of the hands, but not locking the elbows. And you can then breathe here. So let's just breathe natural. Inhaling and exhaling. And for those on camera, it's almost like a rotation of the outside edges of the hands, really feeling the stretch through this area. So fingertips are facing towards each other. We're almost rolling our arms together, but we're not collapsing the shoulders. We're not rolling forward like this. We have a nice long back of the neck, and we're just spinning the outside edges of the hands out and really reaching down towards the ground through them, similar to what we're doing in our feet. So we can take another breath here, stretch. And then exhale, relax, let the hands float up, let the knees bend. And then inhale back into it. Inhale. Reaching through the outside edges of the hand, outside edges of the feet, the back of the head, and exhale. Moving with the breath. Get strong. 2 more. Last one, nice breath in. Breathe natural as your hands float back down. And then we can bring them out to the sides of our hips, and then just let your hands face forward on either side of you. So almost like you've got a nice 45-degree angle from your arms down towards the ground, reaching through the back of the head. Your hands are rotating forward, maybe even slightly up, so you can feel this openness in the shoulder joints. And then from here, we're going to, as we've done before, unlock the knees. Keep the back of the head reaching back so the spine is nice and long, and then reach back with your hips. As you reach back with your hips and the knees are bent, the arms counterbalance, coming forward. So reaching the hips and the hands away from each other, and then palms face down, and you can bring yourself back up. So let's inhale, hips go back, hips are leading the movement, the arms are a counterbalance. And then exhale up to stand. The weight should be in your heels as the hips move back. You should lift your toes off the ground so the weight is in the heels. Reach through the back of your neck so you're nice and long in your spine, and then press yourself back up to stand. Inhale, reach the hips back. Further back the hips go, the further out the arms can go, and then up to stand. Weight in the heels and the outside edges of the feet. The knees are unlocked. Exhaling up. You should feel this in your butt and in the backside of your legs. The big muscles. Let's do 2 more. Inhale. Reaching the hips back behind the knees, and then exhale up, pressing through your heels. 1 more. Exhale, back up to stand. Inhale the arms out to the side. And exhale. Palms back to back. Inhale. Exhale the arms open. They can float down. Palms facing up. Inhale back up. Exhale, turn the palms down. Let the palms come back to back, and then inhale again. We're going to do this a couple more times. Exhaling, palms up. Inhale, lift. And exhale, palms down. The knees can bend. Palms back to back, inhaling up. Exhale. Inhale, you can come off your heels if you'd like. And exhaling down. And again, in and open. Inhale, lift. Exhale. Take your time. See how much you can slow this down. Breathing slowly and deeply. Inhaling. Exhale. Slowing the breath, slowing the chi, conserving chi. Inhale. Exhale. In and out. Two more. Moving at your pace. And the invitation is to let your pace be slow. One more. And out. Palms back to back. Let's inhale up. And exhale the arms out to the sides. Your elbows can be bent, your arms can be low if that's useful, easier. Your arms can come a little forward if that's better for your shoulders. And then let's inhale and stretch. And exhale, let the arms move closer together like you're consolidating a ball in between your hands until you're holding something about the size of a soccer ball in front of your face and just checking in with your shoulders, making sure they're relaxed and not up by your ears, making sure your elbows aren't too close to your body. There's a little bit of lift. Feeling the space in between your hands. Reaching through the back of the head, lengthening the spine, unlocking the knees, lifting the toes, rooting into the 3 points of contact in your feet. We'll take another big inhale here. Exhale, take this ball and point it at your lower dantian, using the middle fingers and the ring fingers to point at the belly. Shoulders are relaxed, shoulder blades are resting on the back side of the rib cage. We're not rounded forward. Breathing wide, breathing 360 degrees into the rib cage and out around the arms. And again, work with your breath. Breathe with your whole body. Breathe into every cell. Use your breath to stoke the embers of light that you are. Feel where the breath moves. Feel where it doesn't move as easily. Notice any areas of held tension. See if you can invite space into those areas. See if you can breathe space into those areas. See if you can balance effort with ease. One more breath here. On your next inhale, let your arms float out in front. And exhale, your arms can come around. They don't have to come back too far, just as far as is comfortable. And see if you can point your fingers at the backside of your lower dantian, to the area of your kidneys. And you don't have to squeeze your arms together. You can let space exist in between your shoulder blades. If your chin is jutting up, see if you can reach back through the back of your head, soften your knees so that your weight is in your heels. See if you can lift your toes off the ground. Breathe. You might feel some stretch underneath the collarbones. See if you can breathe into the sides and the back side of the rib cage. We're kind of compressing this area of the rib cage. Can you fill it with breath? Filling up the back side of the body. Stretching through the back side of the head, lengthening the neck. On your next inhale, let your hands float up through your kidneys. Bring your fingertips to either side of the rib cage. So right on the sides. The arms aren't jutting back. They're not forward. They're kind of sideways. Middle fingers and ring fingers are touching the sides of the rib cage, right in the area of the liver and the spleen, these big repositories in our bodies that can sometimes start to resemble dirty sponges. So we can breathe into this area, use the breath and the massaging of the diaphragm to wring out the dirty sponges. Another big breath in, and this time as you inhale, come off your heels. And then exhale, clearing out the liver and the spleen. Big breath in. Exhale, the middle fingers and ring fingers can come to the third eye. And again, see if you can, if your shoulders are up, can you relax them? Can you let your elbows be soft? Can you lengthen through the back of your neck, reaching through the back of the neck, which will engage some muscles, which will take the pressure off of the shoulder girdle. On the next inhale, inhale and open the third eye. Exhale. Another nice breath in. And then exhale the fingers to Bai Hui, the top of the head. And we're not reaching back behind us, just up overhead in a way that feels comfortable. And again, relaxing the shoulders, lengthening through the back of the neck, breathing into the back of the rib cage. And as you're ready, your hands can start to float down the midline, over the face, and then coming to rest in front of the heart center, the center of the sternum. Letting the elbows be relaxed and heavy. Neck is long, knees are bent. 3 points of contact in the feet. Breathing into the sides and the back of the rib cage. This point in the center of the chest is called Dan Zhong. Zhong is the center. Dan is the altar, or it's the cauldron. The center of the cauldron, the center of the altar. So we can let the hands relax, and then we can let one hand relate to the past and maybe regrets and things that we lament. Another hand can be related to the future and any potential worries or anxieties we have about the future. And we can bring the past and the future together to this center of the altar where the fire, the ceremonial fire burns, and just let all of that past and present, which does not actually exist, just let it be consumed by the fire of the eternal now. And feel your body now, and feel the presence of your breath. And know that right now is all that there is. And right now, all is well. And as we breathe, allowing the breath to stoke this ceremonial flame, the center of our altar, allowing the warmth of this fire, the presence of this moment to circulate freely, being carried by the redness of our blood out into the extremities so that you can feel the pulsing of the blood in your fingertips. And then we can turn our fingertips to face down, allowing the hands to move down over the lower dantian, and we can fold them over our lower dantian, allowing this flame to be rooted deep in our bellies. And then we can bring our hands around the waist so that our hands are over our kidneys and our lower back, and we can massage our kidneys up and down. And then let's draw our hands out, shake them out. And then just, you can shake your body out a little bit and just find a comfortable stance without too much focus on specific alignment cues or anything, but just allowing yourself a moment to just drift. Breathing naturally, just feeling what you feel. Knowing that each breath is coming from the universe into your body, moving through your body, and then out of your body. So feeling that exchange of energy that is happening between you and the universe. That you are in the universe and the universe is in you. And the body serves as a conduit of exchange and transformation between the two. Working with our breath, working with movement, helping to open up the pathways of this exchange and transformation so that it can happen easily, with less resistance, with less accumulation. Let's rub our hands together. And then we can massage our faces up and down, back and forth over the top of the head, down the back of the neck and around, over the chest and the lower ribs and the belly, and then around the waist to the lower back, and then out again, and shake it out again. And then let's pat up one arm and down. Up the other arm and down. And then around and down the backside of the legs, up the front. And again, around and down. And up. All right. Great. Okay, any questions about that? Okay, good. Well, let me know if you'd like a recording of this video, and otherwise, stay warm, drink warm, wet foods, or eat warm, wet foods, and yeah, make use of this time to go inward. Like last week, we talked about those questions of who am I? Why am I here? What am I doing? And, I think those questions are less about getting an answer and more about continually asking the question and seeing what comes up. And yeah, allowing this time for restoration and nourishment and conservation and rebuilding and preparing for, we get to the solstice and then yang starts to rise again. Next thing you know, it's going to be springtime and we're going to have energy moving back out again. So we want to be ready for that and have the capacity to do that so that we don't have to groan and not feel the will to survive. Okay, great. So thank you for practicing with me. I hope you have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next time. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great week.